Welcome to the Great Honey Podcast. I'm Maya, the Amerlin Bee.
I'm Marcelle, the Gleeman.
This is a show where we talk about all things Wheel of Time. If you're joining us from YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I never thought I'd actually say it in my life, but I gotta tell you because it helps. And leave a comment so we can keep talking. Thank you for coming to week 2 of the show.
Yeah, episode 7. What did you think? What was your initial thoughts after finishing it?
Um, I mean, I was really, really excited for it. And so I'm always really scared that when you're really into something that is going to be overhyped in your head. That's what happened to me when I was watching Inception, for example. I hated it
Right.
just because it was so overhyped in my head, but this one did not disappoint. In fact,
Yeah.
it was above my expectations. And I feel like that happens every episode. So,
Yeah. I think this is kind of where I'm at too. I want to say this is my favorite so far, but I did have some. I think the same with the last episode. There's some pacing things that were weird, but I thought the progression of the story through the ways and all the way to the end where we kind of know where we're going to end up in terms of who the dragon and what the finals showdown's going to look like. Moraine and Rand heading into the blight to go to the eye of the world. It just, I don't know, it kind of sets the story in motion for me, and I kind of liked where everything is kind of set up for the season or and pretty much the show going forward. So I'm going to say this is probably my favorite one so far.
let's get into what happened in the show. Do you want to talk about the cold open? I actually, from reader perspective, I didn't really know the story of Rand's mom. Very cool
Okay.
mom reveal.
I mean, this part of it, I didn't expect this at all. The showrunner Rafe Judkins had said that we would see or meet Nail that we wouldn't expect, and I definitely did not expect to meet Rand's mom. And I don't know if they don't actually give her name anywhere, other than the behind the scenes stuff or the stuff on the website. But I just thought it was awesome. I don't know how the actress, I forget her name, but she does such a great job not saying
Selena.
anything. Yeah. I think she's on Twitter and she's been getting a lot of praise, rightfully, for this. I mean, it's just insane. And it kind of sets this bar really high for the IEL going forward, because this is a woman in active labor, like fending off what I assume, and because I think a few of them you can actually see they're actually Illianer soldiers from the nation of Ilion. And I think you can see knots of rank. I can't remember exactly, but these are, you're supposed to realize, I think, that are good sold. They're actually good fighters, and she just takes them all out like pretty effortlessly, other than the active labor. But yeah, and then you get the kind of the ending of that where this person with the sword is like, right there when she's about to actually, give birth, which is, we get that reveal later as Tam, Rand's dad. I just thought that whole sequence was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I really loved it. I was just like, cool, we're opening up with the coolest fight scene I think I've ever seen in fantasy television, like hands down.
I don't think there's been a better introduction to a character that I can think of. But yeah, I thought the choreography with it was really well done, because the IEL, they described their fighting as dancing, and definitely came off as a dance. And I love the fact that she grabs the cloak and yanks them, yanks the one guy by. I think, it just kind of highlights the how people would kind of get overwhelmed by IEL. They just aren't used to fighting people who are able to outmaneuver them like that.
Yeah, I can't wait till we see more IU.
You know.
And then what happens next? I guess we have our very awkward shouting for Matt in the dark. I think that was the lowest point in the whole episode for me, was just like that part, but it's okay. It makes sense. They
Yeah.
had to do it, and it sets up sort of the interpersonal conflicts and drama that are very central to this episode.
Right. I thought that scene, I think they did the best they could with and I think it works out because Moraine, the you get Rand, who is immediately really defend, he wants to go save Matt. He wants to get him and make sure he's, not going to be harmed. Because, look, also they were just running away from all these dark friends, which I'm sure now Matt's kind of like left defenseless to them, as far as we know. But then, Moraine kind of elaborates and is like, well, if if he is the dragon, he would be tempted by the dark one. So I actually think this has worked out for the best for everybody. Which is, I guess, true. I don't know. It's hard to place that, if that makes sense. Like Land says, like, what if he is a dragon? Then don't we lose either way if we don't have him on our side? So I don't know. I thought it was a good way to play off with with that character not being available, I guess, for the rest of the season or not. But I think it worked out. But I'm glad to kind of be done with that part of it and kind of get into the ways itself.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that? I mean, the book describes it so viscerally, how all the scenery of it, how the light, the darkness is so oppressive. Did you get a good sense of that? They weren't in there for very long.
Yeah, I did. I felt like it was very the way I pictured it going into it was kind of like how Eleven's like visions and the sensory deprivation tank is in
Oh yeah.
Stranger Things, where you just start walking around in the dark, and then when you get close enough to something, you see it.
Hmm.
That's sort of what I pictured, but then they just made it gross and scary, and like it looks like something that used to be really beautiful and well traveled and was super useful. As a
Yeah.
transportation engineer, I was like, if that was a real thing where you could just walk in a gate and then there's all these bridges and things that just connect to stuff, that would be
Right.
so cool. Um, I'm really hoping we get a glimpse of the ways when it was in its prime at some point, just as someone
Yeah,
who has no idea if that happens. Don't
that
spoil
would be
it.
interesting. I was hoping Loyal would give us a bunch of an info dump or some exposition
Yeah.
about what's going on there.
I
See,
don't want that
mentions
man finishes that.
I know. They literally, I think, what is Rand? I think Rand says, if he needs patience, we're gonna die. Which, proves to be maybe correct in the end. But I think Loyal mentions that there were trees in there at one point. I don't think I've ever really thought about what it might have looked like beforehand, but it definitely looks pretty terrible now. What did you? I think when they get to the part where Machin Shin shows up, which is this, they call it the Black Wind, but essentially it's a sort of thing that gets into their heads, which is definitely a change from the book. But I really like this change where it kind of starts to talk to them all and kind of speaks to their anxiety. And here's kind of where we get that first part. And I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast yet, but I'm a huge Perrin fan. And he hasn't really got a whole lot of space to shine, I don't think, this season. And then they kind of let you know that he's, at least, I don't know if he's actively pursuing a relationship or any sort of feelings with Egwene, but he's at least worried about some aspect of that, maybe a crush or something. I don't know. It kind of, I don't think I'm against it necessarily, but it was an interesting choice. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I don't know. I felt all the sorts of anxieties everyone's playing off of, at least what we kind of hear, makes a lot of sense for how everyone acts, I think, throughout the rest of this episode.
Yeah, that was interesting. I've been kind of thinking, like getting ready for recording today, how I want to talk about the Egwene and Perrin and Rand like love triangle, as people are calling it. I didn't really see it. I remember watching a review for the first episode when they meet the Tinkers,
Hmm.
where someone was like, I didn't like the romance that they're setting up for Perrin and Egwene. And I rewatched it after watching that, and they like snuggled because they were cold and their childhood friends. And I have a lot of platonic male friends, and I don't think that that would be weird in that situation.
Right.
And it makes sense that you would care a lot and be really like tender towards someone. And plus, they just spent a couple months like pretty much only together, so they're probably just closer in their friendship. And I just never saw any kind of romantic anything.
Right.
And going back to the ways, it just felt like Nynaeve saw that Perrin looked sad seeing Rand and Egwene
Right.
snuggle, and who knows what he was thinking about. He could have been thinking about Layla. And then with Machin Shin, it just seems like it's an intrusive thought. Like you just have weird, crazy thoughts all the
Yeah.
time, and you're just like I don't know. Like sometimes I'm just like I could throw an egg at this person. I'm not gonna do that, but like, and I'm like,
Right.
I don't know why I had the urge to, but I'm not going to throw an egg at someone. It just feels like it's just something that if you're like, oh my God, I killed my wife and then I've spent all this time with my best friend and we're really close now. We must be in love. But you
Right.
don't really think that. And then the other thing was like when they're in Min's bar, which I'm really excited to talk about Min, but we're not there
Yeah.
yet. Nynaeve sees them like goofing off and telling jokes to each other and is like, oh, they're flirting. But it's just no, they have inside jokes. And I think that it was just Nynaeve being nosy,
Yeah.
point blank.
I
Just because that's
100%
just like
agree.
her.
I think she was reading into something that I don't think was actually there, but I think there's some feelings I think maybe Perrin has. I don't think Egwene has them for Perrin, but I
Yeah.
think it's just
I think it's
some.
confusing, right?
Yeah, I think he's also, Perrin's headspace probably not the best, right? Considering everything that everyone's going through, but particularly him. And then he's looking at Egwene and Rand cuddling together, and just maybe being jealous in general that Rand still has the person that he loves with him, or Egwene and Rand have each other, and he has a killed wife, and that he did the killing of. So
Like the running thing with Perrin too is that he's just not as good with women as Rand and Matt are, and it makes him mad. Like,
I think that is there's an element of that they're so old, they're so much older now that I don't know what dynamic is at play there in terms of their friendship, but I think that's probably accurate. um so then we kind of, I guess, to move a little bit from there, we kind of get the
I
actual.
ranted so much about that. I was like, this is my chance to speak my piece.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything going on between them.
Right. I don't think so, but um so I guess we get the actual. I don't know if it's clear in the show the way that it's presented, but because Loyal says you can't channel in the waves, but it's not because you can't channel, it's just because if you channel, Mach and Shin will come. And then we see the scene, so we won't get into the actual reveal, right? Since they kind of have that at the end of the episode, but where the Trolloc shows up, and it does look like Egwene is channeling, but Rand's channeling eventually is what actually tosses the Trolloc back. But that effect essentially brings Mach and Chin there, and that's what kind of spurs the next part of this, where Nynaeve, freshly having been told that she's going to fail to protect all these people, immediately goes and protects everybody. So I thought that was a pretty good way to like actually see that I don't know that these are actual real feelings. It's just anxiety, right? She clearly can protect them. And so probably Perrin didn't actually kill his wife in order to make room for Egwene. So I think that definitely plays into that. But yeah, I love that scene because it's, I guess, a showcase Nynaeve's like power. And again, we still at this point don't know who the dragon is, and just being reminded that she's like really powerful and able to like allow Moraine the time to actually open the way gate, and they can eventually get out of there. But
So nice
yeah, I thought
that Moraine actually cares about her kids.
yeah, I was surprised by that. She's been so ruthless that the fact that she's worried about getting them killed was actually kind of refreshing to know.
Going back to the Trolloc, like showing up at the triggering of bringing Machin Shin, I thought the Trolloc, the first time I watched it, I thought the Trolloc just missed and fell because the channeling happened so fast. I was like, oh wow, that Trolloc overjumped.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, I thought it was kind of, it looked sickly. I can't tell exactly. It was so dark, but
Yeah.
you also in that moment, I think maybe the moment right before we see Pat and Fane, we get a glimpse of him, but you gotta have to like kind of freeze frame a little bit to see him. But he's in there. We don't know what he's up to at this point. I actually have I mean, I assume he's up to no good, just just by virtue of his character. But I don't know. I honestly have no idea what his goals are here. But yeah, so that's the ways. I don't know. I thought it was great. I thought that whole sequence was short, but I think that's kind of been the way of most most of the scenes. But yeah.
And then we
All
go to
right. So then
Aldara.
they get to the fortress city as it's called, right? I
Mhm.
don't know if it's called that in the books. I actually can't remember, but I don't know. I put this on here because I wanted to just kind of talk specifically about how it looked. It's I don't know, from the other set pieces have been great, but this one I feel is has been it looks the best to me. It just made it seem more open, and the city itself, the actual, I guess the is it the fortress temple, is that what they called it? I can't remember exactly what they called it, but this is a essentially a place that's been set up to beat back the Dark One's minions, and it definitely looks like that. And it just, I don't know, it just looked way better than the other sets, I think, so far, at least from that that outside view. Um, but then I guess we could talk about too the actual people that we meet in there. We have Lord Algomar and his sister, which I for the life of me cannot remember her name.
Lady Amalisa.
Yes, yeah. And we get a quick glimpse of Uno, who
Mhm.
is a pretty cool character, fan favorite from the book series, but he gets introduced here with the eye patch, which I think I'm pretty excited to see him just from nostalgia. But yeah, what did you think of Faldara? At least how they've introduced it.
Cool. I mean, first of all, I was happy to be in a new biome and kind of
Yeah,
just see the world expand a little more. I was really excited to meet Lord Agumar just because he's just like very like I don't know, you like don't know where he's at like ever.
right.
If I remember correctly. It's kind of just like he's very like proud, I guess. So it was really fun to meet him and I don't know, just hear like my favorite part of Fall Dara is just Lan's relationship to it and kind of
Right.
like it's like your like glimpse into him a little bit and it like humanizes him. Although the show's done a really great job of making Lan human.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely lean into it immediately when you get Uno, who gives him like a familiar sort of
Yeah.
I think a hug actually.
Mhm.
And then like Algomar is really warm with Land, but then really cold with Moraine. So it's an interesting thing because usually Borderlanders are super cool with Aes Sedai because
Yeah.
they're mostly fighting Trollocs, so they would probably love actual, I would anticipate that they would be really happy that a Aes Sedai would show up. But here it seems he's resistant to her being there. And I guess he blames his sister for having wrote to the Aes Sedai to bring Moraine there. But
Like, what are you talking about?
she's like, I didn't actually do this. So back off a bit.
One thing with this, the way that the city is sort of shown with the big drone shot type
Mhm.
footage is I can't tell if it's a very compact, dense fortress that's very like fortified, fortified
Right.
fortress. I'm tired.
It
Or
does
if
look
it's
fortified. That's true
huge
though.
and like you get the sense of scale by how big it is by being next to all the mountains and stuff. I couldn't
Right.
really tell if it's like massive or really compact. And then when you go around, It's
Yeah.
just so, I don't know. That's all.
I
I
think
couldn't tell if it was huge or small.
I think you're right because well, I mean, at least in that my perspective is the same because I can't really place it. I think it's supposed to be that it's really big and we're just kind of seeing it from a wide, a
Mhm.
zoomed out lens. But it's the same with Tarvalin when they showed the like cityscape view of it. I'm just like, this place is either like really, the tower is huge. It's a similar feeling where I'm like, I can't really place it because I've never really seen anything as big as what what at least what they're saying the White Tower is, as compared to the buildings around it. And I think we're supposed to get a similar feel here.
Harvalin at least is kind of sprawling, so you can get a sense sort of just that there's so many people, and then the tower is just there and it's just massive.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it I guess it's sort of a testament to how protected everything is that you can't tell how many people are inside of it. So it's still really
yeah,
cool. It's just I want to know like what's the population? Like
right,
give me
right.
the data sheet. I want the census data.
Yeah, I am actually, again, it's another part of this that really makes me excited for more seasons is they're just, the the culture, you could tell immediately they're blending all sorts of things. You have lands, from his people with the Hidori, the Malkir. Sorry, I couldn't think of that for a second. You have his people there, or at least people that were from Malkir with, and then you see others that have a different sort of dress, probably Shinaran people, and then just
would they
just in the
all
meshing of
be
culture there.
would they all be places that were lost to the blight? Is that kind of the idea of who would be in Faldara, or is it sort of a place that people end up? It's just that's the
And
other thing. There's not like a big road, is there?
right.
My book next to me to
I
look.
can't honestly, and I'm terrible about knowing how everything is placed. I just know that the borderlands in Shinar, so Faldar is in Shinar, and all of those borderland nations are in the north. And particularly where Faldar is placed is right in front of this gap. They call it the
Arwen's Gap.
Tarwin's Gap, yes. Which, I think you're supposed to get that maybe a bunch of the Borderlanders maybe sort of congregate there since it's such a place of attack because it's right in front of where the Dark One would lead attacks from because it's easy way to get into the overall area there. So I don't know. I think we're supposed to get but they just do such a great job with the costuming and stuff that not everyone's wearing the same thing, and you can see all the like sort of cultures bleeding in to everything there, and there's nothing that's like so I don't simplified. It all is just so unique and but all at the same time, it looks like this is what a melting pot area would look like. So I kind of think that they're blending a lot of the Borderlanders in there. Obviously more of the people are going to be from Faldara, but I think you can kind of see they're trying to show that aspect at least. That's what I got from it.
So excited to hear more about this. I'm just so excited to see more places when they come up.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorite things. It's just the new every time there's a new city.
I mean, I'm super. I don't know where they're gonna go because there's places that there's several places they go in the first book that they haven't gone that I expect. They haven't gone in the show that I expect are gonna come up that I'm
Camelin.
excited to see. Camelin is definitely gonna be one of those, but
Mhm.
there's so many important places that we'll have to see, and they all have that sort of unique culture. Even when Robert Jordan describes all these places, no one, there'll be similar dressed people because it fits the style of that place. But it's always just so uniquely and he spends so much time describing everything. So I think they have a lot to work with in terms of how they're actually gonna, have everyone looking in these various areas. And kind of excited for that part.
Can I
We're
pause and ask a listener
Yeah.
question real quick?
Oh
If
yeah.
anyone's here, I want to know if you happen to listen to Minecraft, if the Ways is inspired by the Nether. Just if you're out there, I want to know. Or maybe I'll tweet about it because I'm now on Twitter. Thanks to you, Marcel.
It's a great place to be.
Shall
But
we
yeah,
start talking about one of the best characters in the whole
please,
series?
please. And
Min.
and
I don't know
I
what her whole name
completely,
is.
it's El Mindretta. I think is her actual first name. Her
Yeah.
last name is Farshaw.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess this is your favorite character, or at least
One of my
you're
favorites.
number one stan, right? But yeah, what do you think of her portrayal here?
It was everything I wanted. I don't know. I was just like short boy clothes, really direct. I was like, this is a character after my heart, like from the books. And then
Right.
when you first meet her and you can tell that she's just flat out lying to Moiraine, but like telling her a little bit, just kind of
Yeah.
giving Moiraine what she gives, like giving back what Moiraine gives to other people was really great to watch.
Wait, so you thought she was lying to Moraine?
100%. Because
Okay.
then she saw like totally different things when she was talking to Rand.
Yeah, that's true. I'm
So
curious. I'm curious as to how much she didn't say, um, and how much I'm assuming what she does say she doesn't lie about.
yeah.
So I'm assuming that's true because we they very I think this is good that they didn't show which of the visions we were supposed to see for Egwene or Nynaeve, but she saw them over them, and you know, I think they're the way the visions looked actually too were pretty cool.
God, it looks so much cooler than I pictured in my
Yeah,
head. I was like,
in
this probably looks so dumb. I don't know.
in the books, it was more like dancing like symbols that flickered
Like a
around people's
thing over
head.
here, like a Sims thing.
Yeah, I think this makes way more sense.
Yeah.
I liked seeing the Perrin one. I thought, like
Like
I said, I'm a
split.
big Perrin fan, so I'm ready for whatever's coming towards his character. But I I think I have a sense of everyone's vision. Well, let me take that back. I have a sense of everyone's vision except for Moraine's and
Whose movie
Rand's.
was that?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea where they're going with that. And the thing about Moraine's downfall being the Armelin, I think there's actually some way we could speculate on that from in the show. I don't think this
So
is
too.
necessarily from the book, but
Yeah. Is it
yeah, I
because
think those
she
are
says
interesting.
I'll obey Swan Sanche and not I'll obey the Amerlin seat? And then when she says
Right,
the Amerlin seat, it might not be Swan Sanche, which
right.
makes me feel like she's gonna get unseated. And
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen. So, but it makes me feel like they're like setting that up and I'm gonna be upset.
Well, here's my first hot take. And again, I
Unless she
don't
retires and goes and fishes, and then I'm fine with it.
Armelin serve for life.
Oh, they're
So
not allowed to retire?
yeah, I don't think so. They have to die in office.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. They might change that. Who knows? I kind of saw it as because I think we talked about this last episode that the visions are kind of identified as bad, or the dreams, I should say. Sorry, the dreams that they were having, and Swan is saying that her dreams are what are telling Moraine to go to the eye. Um, and I'm thinking that perhaps what they see at the eye is not exactly what they wanted, and that perhaps is the downfall.
That's
Now, I
true.
don't know. I don't know because it could, again, I have, honestly, this is the part of like, I think we talked about this too last time. The Eye of the World ends in such a strange way, a divisive way in the fandom, actually. There's a lot of people who don't like the way it ends. I think we can be pretty sure they're going to change the way it ends in the show. So I have no idea what they're going to do. So I'm really just speculating based on what the show has told us. So I'm kind of leaning towards the eye of the world is it's a trap,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Like it's so rushed and you're just like, this seems like such a bad idea. But
Yeah.
so then what happens next?
So then the two rivers guys get into a fight. Um, and basically the fight, I think this is kind of where I think we have to use some of we have to do a little bit of work to understand what's going on, I think, because we get some input from what they hear in the ways. And just if you think about all their stories throughout the season so far, Moraine basically tells them, we got to go to the eye, and anyone who goes that's not the dragon will die. And even if you are the dragon, I think is you're gonna die anyway. Like, I think that's the sense is that everyone here is going to die. So hopefully, one of you guys actually wins this crazy gambit that we're going into here. So after she kind of lays that bomb on them, she gets kind of like, all right, talk amongst yourselves. And I think that's where all of that comes from. I think Perrin is just
Panicked.
feeling what Machin Shin told him. And I don't think it's out of his character, even just like as a friend, to hear the way the way Rand is talking to Egwene. I mean, it's just why didn't Nynaeve step in? Like, he was being kind of absurd.
Yeah.
And then I think Rand just twists it. I feel like there's so many things playing there. I think that's where parents coming from. I think it's just that fear that he his crush with Egwene is so basically fed into what he did, the accident with his wife. And then
Mhm.
I think Rand is just using it as an excuse to push everyone away. I think is kind
Yeah.
of what's going on.
And I think with the thing about Matt and like Rand being mad at Egwene for allegedly not liking Matt, maybe comes back to just them growing up together and just Egwene's parents. Her dad is the mayor and they own the Wine Spring Inn. So they're
Right.
basically the wealthiest family. And Matt is kind of set up as one of the poorest people in town. And so I'm
Yeah.
sure that like Egwene either thinks Matt's a bad influence or
Right.
like over worries about him or thinks that they're not doing enough to make Matt behave better or whatever. And just with how I'm sure it was very stressful for them to watch their best friend not come with them into the ways when they're in this
Right.
really scary situation, for her to just be like, he left us. Probably hurt Rand just because he spent so much time protecting Matt and just like Matt's like his like I don't know. I feel like
Right.
their friendship is special, even though like I know Perrin is also like really special, and the three of them together, especially at the very beginning, I feel like Matt and Rand's connection is established a lot better than with Perrin. And
Yeah.
so I can see how that would just really hit a nerve with Egwene, and then he would just be mean about it, and then that would make Perrin mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think on Twitter I think I tweeted out that I wanted to give shout out to that baritone and Perrin's voice when he gets angry. I don't think I could stand up to someone speaking in that way. But Rand, he does a good shot of it. He gives it a good performance there before he backs down, as he probably should have.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how he just backed away. Just
Yeah. I think this is I don't know how many times you ended up watching it, but this is a good rewatch episode, because I think you can also tell that Rand knows, at least he knows more, that he's probably the one. I think he's been thinking it the whole time, and maybe the fact that Matt was sick from the dagger, that he kind of let himself not believe it as much, because obviously Matt channels, or at least that's what he thought.
mhm.
So I think all of this is just
It's
part of that too. he he definitely I guess I should say the performances here, I feel like this is perfect for all these characters, because everything is exactly as they would be in my mind. These characters, it's all different situation for sure, but they all respond in the way that the characters would. And I think they do a really good job here. But there's a lot of controversy over this scene,
Now that we're
particularly
talking
because of the
about it, I feel like this is one of my favorite episodes.
yeah. I
I
think so
loved this
too.
scene. I loved it so much. I feel like we haven't gotten a chance to have them all together the whole season,
Yeah.
except for Matt. But
Right.
still, like just to have them all just interacting, even if it's super dramatic, which like I love the friendship drama throughout the series. It's one of my favorite things about it, that they're
Right.
just like doing all this crazy like world changing things, and they still are just like fighting like teenagers or like someone from like Vampire Diaries. It's just so funny to me.
Yeah. I think I think it does suck that we don't have Matt in this, because I think that's a key aspect of how this, at least between Matt or between Rand and Perrin. I
Yeah,
don't
the
think
comic relief.
Yeah, I think Matt would have stepped in before it got there. And I think this is naturally how it probably would have played out if Matt wasn't there to diffuse it, especially the way they've used him in the show. He always seems to be the one to give like a joke or something to kind of break the tension a little bit. So I feel like that was kind of missing there. So I think you can feel his absence.
Yeah.
So but I think they do a good job. And honestly, I hope we get more scenes with them together, because I think the season as a whole has lacked with the Two Rivers guys. I feel like I just want more of them. Like that whole scene, I was like wanting more of it, just more of them interacting.
I I really loved it. And then
Yep.
Nynaeve is just standing there, kind of embarrassed because she was fussing over things she shouldn't have been, which is very Nynaeve.
Right. I think again I think she was reading into something that wasn't really a thing, but then when she brought it up, it gave Rand an excuse to lash out, and it gave Perrin a reason to defend himself, and ostensibly if defend Egwene even though she didn't need it. Yes, there's a quick scene of Moraine and Lan kind of, I guess, just discussing. I think the subtext of that conversation between Lan and Moraine is that they're gonna. I mean, she says it in a way. She's like, everyone else who goes is gonna die, and you five or you four now have a chance, to one of you at least. But implicitly, that means Rand and Moraine would definitely die, like regardless. So I think it's a weird conversation because they don't seem to acknowledge that. At least maybe they don't have to because of the water bond. But I don't know. I thought it was worth noting. But it's a quick scene where she basically tells him to go say his goodbyes.
I love the parallels from the last episode before Moraine goes and meets Swan.
Yeah.
Also, just like that, like, okay, bye, have fun.
Yeah. It was like a tacit acknowledgement that, maybe you want to do this now before we die tomorrow.
I like the wisdom.
I mean, I love this. And again, all of the romances, even the ones that didn't really fully exist in the book, have been done so well that I love all of them way better than they do than they present in the books. And particularly the Lan and Nynaeve relationship, I think, has been really well done and fleshed out. But I don't know, how'd you think about that sequence? Did you see it going there?
Squealing the whole time, and I just thought it was hilarious that Nynaeve was basically just stalking him.
Yeah.
And just like awkwardly standing there and hoping he would say something. And I was just like, this is a lot like how I was with my husband.
I mean, you gotta give it to her, because that was certainly, I wouldn't have expected her to do that. I was kind of surprised, especially when she goes into his room afterwards. I did not expect any of that to happen. So I think
He's gonna die.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that part of it too, because there's always a presence of death in the books, just in the myriad ways that it could come. But this is a more obvious or sort of definite death to come in the next day. So it's interesting how they would act in that situation. So it makes sense, and I thought her following him to meet the other, I guess, his family, or at least people from Malkier.
Family, I guess, right?
Yeah, they didn't really give names, but you got the sense that he knew them well. But yeah, I thought that whole thing was very interesting, and well done.
It was like the payoff that I needed. I was like, they've got to just get a romance scene. They've been building it up so well, and it's just
Right.
I just want them to, even in the ways they're flirting in the ways, and you're just like, this is terrifying, but it's just not, because this is so funny that they're just flirting.
But here's the question: did Moraine mask the bond beforehand? That's the thing that I can't tell, because Lan says the day afterwards that he did that she masked the bond, but he doesn't really say when, and he looks pointedly at Nynaeve. So I don't know if maybe she did it beforehand or not, but I'm interested.
Wouldn't be surprised if she like felt it and was like, no, I can't do
Yeah,
this.
I kind of get that too. Because I kind of feel like when he looks at her, he's just like, because I think too, this is going to play into Lan blaming himself because he's going to be mad that Moraine goes off by himself, right?
Yeah.
And because he let himself, actually,
Cool.
you know, yeah, I think he's going to be angry with himself and probably, which I think will be good tension, but I think he'll probably push away from Nynaeve because of this.
Um, I mean, I guess the masking of the bond during it, I feel like would be like an excuse for Lan to not notice after he wakes up, or just being
Right.
like, "Where's Marie?" I
I
don't know.
like
I don't
I
know what.
like for all the people that thought that he wasn't he isn't like emotionless enough. There's a lot of people who are angry about that. I thought when he takes his shirt off and he's like battle scar ridden, I think we could still get that the sense that this dude is, he's still as badass as he is in the books. He just actually has a heart and is a human.
Yeah, I love that about the Warders. They give me a very like female gaze
Yeah,
vibe that makes sense, where they're like just like manly enough, but then they're also not like afraid of those like quote unquote emasculating things. Like they
right,
aren't like ascribing to that toxic masculinity because they're warders and they're badass and they don't have to
right.
be.
And that's kind of very, very Land from the books. He doesn't go out of his way to make sure that people knows he's a badass. It's just, it's implicit in the things that he does.
Yeah, so we get our fade to black Lan and Nynaeve scene,
All
and then
right.
we're yeah, I'm talking again.
Yeah, we jump right back into the sex scene.
And then Rand and Egwene have a little chat by the archery area.
I think this is a great scene because I think Rand and Egwene have such great chemistry. The actors, what is it? Madeline Manning and Yosha Stradowski. I think that's right. But they have really good chemistry and makes me really believe in like this relationship as opposed to what we get in the book. So not to, go too into what their relationship is in the books, but I think here they just I don't know. It just seems way more believable, and the love there seems really authentic. So um, I think it perfect again, perfect characterization of Rand getting angry, them both having an argument, Rand storming off and brooding, and then Egwene seemingly waiting for him to have come back, but then he knows that she wouldn't have talked to him until she was ready. I thought that was perfect.
Like Egwene saying that she waited in her room for an hour is basically the most Egwene thing that
Yeah,
she could have said. Just like her pouting and then just giving up and being like, Rand is stupid. Like, I need to go talk
yeah.
to him.
I think I think the whole her saying that or at least Rand acknowledging that she's going to go to the White Tower, and then him saying that he wouldn't let anyone else become her warder. I thought all of that was very well done, particularly when she tells him that it doesn't matter if he is the dragon, she's always going to be there for him or be stick by him. And I think honestly that's when he decides to do it. I think he was probably going to do it anyway, just because once Moraine tells everyone that they will die if they're not the dragon, I think he starts to think I have to do this, otherwise everyone will die here. And he basically said it in that argument. I can't lose anyone else.
Mhm.
And I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion there. But I think the nail in the coffin is when she says that she will always stand by him. And I think that's just a great characterization of their relationship and why I really like it. Yeah.
Then I guess that kind of gets into the big reveal.
Right. So I
Find
mean,
out who the dragon is, allegedly.
Rand and Egwene, we've already seen them have their sexy time. So it's more the after afterwards where Rand is kind of contemplating it, everything that's happened so far. And we slowly get the realization that, he's been channeling. He also, this is interesting because I expected this in the first episode, but the fever dream from his dad, where his dad is basically spouting off stuff incoherently after he was attacked by the Trolloc.
I feel like I need, ahead of Thursday night, I'm going to do a rewatch of all of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now that I'm done with school, I can do that because I don't have to do. I'm gonna watch for that. Like just like those, like if there's any like moments where it just seems like Rand is like thinking about something that we're not really seeing.
Right.
I like really want to know what, or just if there's like any hints of it, because I was just watching for just any chances that maybe Rand channeled or
Yeah.
did something kind of supernatural, like the thing with the steel door, and kind of just
Yeah.
going from there.
Where they didn't actually show the weaves, but when he starts to think about it, he knows that it's there,
Mhm.
especially when he does it in the ways, which we alluded to in the beginning,
Mhm.
where his weaves, we can see when he does it, especially in the ways, I think we can see him with the corruption. Um kind of, I guess, take over it the way we see with Logain, which I think was actually very interesting. Because I didn't expect that they would kind of do a sort of reveal like this where there are things that happen that we didn't see from his perspective. That, you know, in the end, I guess we're supposed to realize that he's been thinking about this stuff for a long time, from the beginning. And I think, like I said, Matt also was kind of a relief from that a little bit, because it reminds me of that scene of when he's talking with Matt about, Matt's like, if I ever end up like Logain, you know,
Forgot
basically,
about that.
get rid of me before
And
this
then Rand's
happens to
like,
me.
what about me?
I
Did
really
they
like this
both
review.
see Logain laughing? Going back to that, because now I'm curious. Did they both see him having that laugh attack? Because it looked like a hallucination,
Yeah.
kind of the way it was shot.
I don't, I think the way it was shot,
It
it
was
was a hallucin, it was Matt's hallucination,
okay.
because he might have looked up at them, but he doesn't seem to, at least Rand doesn't seem to notice it. So I'm thinking that was just from Matt's perspective.
Got it.
Um, but yeah, I think he's got to be thinking about it then. But
Yeah.
the way the show has played it, I thought that was a pretty good way to kind of get Rand, especially at that point, to kind of not be so concerned about it, because at that point he fully thinks it's Matt, I think.
Yeah.
So well done, I think. The reveal, the Heron Mark sword, which they don't really explain so much in the show, but the fact they keep showing that heron on the sword is significant, that I imagine they will explain sooner or later.
Eventually. They don't, I feel
Right.
like in the Great Hunt, it comes up a lot more because he actually gets sword lessons. I feel like
Mhm.
that's not much of a spoiler.
Right. Yeah.
He just like
He
learns
never uses it.
sword, and then people are like, "That's a nice sword."
I mean, I think it's an interesting. I don't know. I kind of wish they would have given us a scene of Tam handing him the sword, and yeah, I don't know how much help that would be for people, but I don't know. I think the sword is significant, and I think um, the fact that Min actually kind of ties it all together for him.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing was just Yosha's performance of it, and his just the grief and devastation in his face was just like he did such a good
Right.
job of kind of showing it. And I mean, I feel like with the way the show is explained what the dragon is, you don't really know how sad of a road it is to go down.
Yeah.
Um, and so I hope they kind of explain it before season 2, at least a little bit, just to kind of give more because I just want to see more. But
Right. I really hope they explain the dragon more next episode. I feel like they almost have to
yeah,
go a little bit into the lore to kind of give the perspective, which, again, we still don't know. The many-headed dragon theory
still on
could
the
still be
table.
in play.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that,
I'm
but
not sure either. It could work. You could perhaps, there isn't, I think you can, I don't know that many book readers would like this interpretation, but you could maybe say there's some element of that. Not, I don't know if that's outright in the books, that it's not outright for sure.
they're
They're all
all
different people, but
Targaryen, right? And that's like kind of the pattern is weaving around all of them, and they all have a
right.
part to play, right? So that's kind of
Yeah. It's like Rand's the dragon, but he couldn't do it without the rest of them, basically. Is what that's what the books reinforce over and over.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of the case here too. At least the way they're playing it, because Min's vision shows them as connected and all part of the same thing, and her visions of them were clear, so apparently that means that they're more significant to the pattern. And then we see Tam, Rand's dad, like taking off his helmet to help Rand's mom, we find out, give birth. I think that was a pretty great scene too. We see there that that's actually the sword that Tam is carrying is the same one that Rand has. And so you're supposed to make all those connections. And then Min is the one who kind of finally just gives him the information. Like she essentially says, yes, I actually saw your dad a long time ago in Tarvalin, and I saw the image of the sword, and I knew that he was going to have raised the Dragon Reborn amongst sheep. So
I also loved the scene of just getting like Rand and Min a chance to just like have a moment together. I was really
yeah,
excited for that. And it was everything I wanted and more. Like, I
right.
don't know, sometimes the way that in the book the like relationships are very corny in a way that
Mm-hmm.
makes me sometimes a little uncomfortable. But
Yes.
this was exactly what I wanted. Like it
Yeah,
was just like they like clearly have like some kind of connection, and it was just like established right off the bat in just like 2 minutes. It was so cool. It's so
right.
cool how much chemistry all of the cast has
Yeah.
just
They
across.
picked really, the actors are just all on point. Like I really just hope that that they continue this trend and all the actors continue to be on this caliber, which I imagine will continue to be the case. As I don't know if we mentioned this part, but apparently The Wheel of Time is Amazon's most successful show ever.
Yeah.
So I imagine we're gonna get more money thrown at it next time. I feel
That
like,
was one thing I saw on Twitter today was they were saying that like if someone discussing the special effects and someone was saying something along the lines of I don't know why it doesn't look as good as The Expanse, which I don't know if you've watched that show or like read the book series. I'm reading the books. I haven't watched all of the show, but
okay,
I've seen the first episode, and CGI does not look that great. And I was like, oh no, this looks like a sci-fi channel thing, which I
right.
think it was at some point. Then it got picked
It
up by
was, yeah.
Amazon, and then it like got a bigger budget. So part of me thinks that they were kind of not pulling out all the stops for season one just to I have very high expectations for season two
Yeah.
now.
I think if you look
The
at
bar
other
is so
shows,
high.
if you look at other comparable shows, I don't think their first seasons were all that great either. I mean, Game of Thrones is obviously the one that comes to mind. That first season did not look as great as people tend to think. So I think what this looks like is, yeah, I think there's some issues. I think some stuff looks amazing. Some stuff is lacking in this show, but I think overall it looks really good. So I think it'll only get better from here, I think.
They don't cut their wolf budget like they did in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I'm worried about that. The wolves need to be featured. I hope we don't get any reduction of wolves going forward. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Then we get this sort of fake out at the end where Rand is, well, I guess before that we get the scene where Egwene goes to Nynaeve's room, and realizes that Nynaeve's not in her bedroom. But then she shows up, and then so does awkwardly Perrin later. And then they realize that Rand isn't there, and then they all kind of come to the realization that he has gone off to the eye of the world, where because I guess Land comes in at that point and says that Moraine's masked the bond, and they all put it together there at the end. Then we see Rand go to Moraine, say that he's the one, and then they go to the Blight, which again they keep everything looks really good. So even when we were just talking about the effects, I thought the Blight didn't look exactly how I expected it, but this looks crazy. I mean, it's supposed to be a sort of wasteland, but like one that's like feeding on itself in a way, and all these weird dark things exist there. And I'm like, yeah, I buy it from this place. The way it looks,
Yeah,
everything just like folded in on
addition of
itself.
the skull, just like
Yeah.
stuck in a branch or whatever.
And it's yeah, I think this sets up this last episode really well. But they're going through that awful place, I guess, to the eye again. I don't really, this is again the plan.
That's the one.
The plan seems iffy.
Yeah. And you just know everyone's going to follow them into the Blight, right? Or maybe not. I mean, they did show that like big Trolloc battle in the preview. So.
Right. Let's go to the previews and let's do the predictions and what we think is going to happen. So we get in this preview of our final episode, we get a look at the Blight, which looks very blighty. But we also then get a Myrddraal who is ushering Trollocs towards what appears to be Fal Dara, the keep. And I don't know, this is conjecture that I read somewhere, but this Fade that we see in this trailer appears to be female. So I'm not sure what to make of that, other than that's interesting. But then we get a look at Moraine. What's that?
It's robust.
Yeah, I know. We get Moraine looking haggard in the waist, in the Blight, and then we have the Shinarans leading a charge, which I guess is towards the Trollocs that we saw invading. Then we get this group. So this goes to some of the predictions here. There's a shot of 4 or 5 women. 2 of them seem to be Nynaeve and Egwene. And then the other 3, I don't know. Yeah, that probably is her. I don't know who the other 2 are. Also have no idea what they're doing. It looks like they're about to do something.
Yeah. Are they standing in front of the gap? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like it. Looks like they're about, I'm assuming, do something with the one power, but who knows? Then we get Rand, a quick shot of Rand, then a quick shot of Mat, which seems to be him, at least maybe in Tar Valon. I can't really tell where he's supposed to be at, but like you said, it looks like reused, a recolored version of something we've seen from him already, but I'm not sure.
That's another thing we didn't talk about, is Moraine sending the Red Aja after Mat.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I think it makes sense, because it's I'm trying to think about it from her perspective. If she thinks Mat, if he is a dragon, would go to the Dark One because of the dagger, then the fact that if he was the dragon, she's willing to just have him gentled instead of going to the Dark One, which she says she would kill them and not let them go to the Dark One. So I guess that makes sense. I don't know what that means for Mat, though, since seemingly he can't channel. So I don't know what that would do to him. But
what else do we see in here? And we see the Trollocs rushing the wall.
Right.
My favorite fantasy battle trope is monsters coming out walls.
I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that they say fire for when they're launching the arrows, because they should say loose.
Right?
What's that?
They have the big trebuchet thing.
I guess that makes more sense, since they maybe are using crossbows,
yeah,
instead of arrows. or bow and arrow. But but yeah, so we get a volley of arrows being shot from these little slits in the keep, the fortress. So they're utilizing their advantage here. Let's see how well that does against these guys. But then we see Perrin running through the hall in distress. I don't know what this means.
Could it be a dream?
Maybe.
I want to at least like one more dream thing
I think we
in
should get
this
one. Yeah.
episode. I think, and then the other, I don't know if it's a cut scene or if it's a thing, but do you want to talk about Padan Fane?
It's, I don't know what this means again, right? This is, if you're curious, because there's a part, right, that they don't really labor on. Parent comments on seeing Padan Fane in Faldara, but we see him leave the Waygate. And that's all we see. We saw him inside the ways, and then we see him leave the Waygate. And then he goes into Faldara and he's there. We know he's there. We know also from previous episodes he's been following them because we know from the whistling, which has been very well done. And I have missed it in several episodes. I had to go back to hear it. But then we outright see him in Tarvalin. And we can maybe assume that maybe he's the one that Leandrin's meeting. But that's just me guessing, because who knows. But they are seemingly, they don't say how he gets through the waves or how he gets out. We see that Moraine has to channel to get in and out. We don't know if he can channel, but he's out of the waves. So we assume, and he's in there. So but the behind the scenes footage that you can get by going through the actual Prime Video account, you can see a behind the scenes shot, or at least a shot that didn't make the episode, of him holding a leaf that book readers will know as the way to get into the ways. And in fact, that's the only way to get in, is using these leaves as essentially like a key. And it looks like that's how he did it, but they don't show that in the episode. So I don't know if we're supposed to believe what we're supposed to believe.
Yeah.
But, he's in Faldara, so we don't know what his intentions are going to be and, what he's going to do. But I just imagine it's not going to be good, because the first time we see Padan Fane, he's in the Two Rivers during their festival. And when the Trollocs start attacking, he kind of just, it's fine with it. Like, he just kind of walks away unworried. So I don't think it's not a mystery that this guy is bad, and at least not afraid of Trollocs at the very least. So yeah, hopefully we get something from that. I really think we need a payoff from all that mysterious Padan Fane stuff. But I can't tell you how it's going to manifest. Basically, we just kind of get this part two that I wanted to bring up with you, where someone says, all five of you have a part to play. And the voice I don't recognize. So I have no idea what to think about that one. But maybe it's the Dark One's voice. Maybe it's Padan Fane's voice, but it sounds different than when we see him in the first episode. So and what does that mean? All five of them have a part to play. So is the five-headed dragon back on in the theorizing here? Or I have no idea. But they say it is going to be an epic conclusion. So this is going to end with some sort of epicness that I'm very excited for. Like I said, the book, The Eye of the World, ends very crazily, in ways that don't fully even make sense within the Wheel of Time itself. Even like even after the series is over, some of the stuff that happens at the end doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm completely in the dark. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, part of it is I can't tell how many of the things that I'm picking up on that are like big hints about things that are going to be important are going to be a part of this conclusion.
Right.
Like it's like there's so many things that they opened up for the world, which I think is part of why we didn't get quite as much time with our like 5 main characters as we would have wanted to, is because they're setting up so much for like the larger story.
Yeah.
So I can't tell like how it's, I have no idea. I literally have no clue.
I think they have to make it to the eye.
Mhm. At
And that's
least
as far as that's as much as I know.
we're gonna
Clearly
get a
the
glimpse of
battle
the
with the
dark one, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I haven't seen him in like 5 episodes.
Right. So I'm
Right?
wondering if we get more looks at that guy, and then does Lan fight in the battle against the Trollocs, or does he go to find Moraine
We don't
and
see him
do
in the preview.
yeah, because he clearly leaves Nynaeve because he's not with her here when she's like standing in front of the gap with 3 other women and Egwene. Um, and then I don't know what Perrin's doing. He's running around in the keep. At least that's all we see. So I have no idea what he would do. There's nothing for me to think about. Maybe he starts helping people inside when the Trollocs attack, I guess. But
Moraine.
yeah, I'm completely at a loss. It's kind of crazy.
Moraine looks so exhausted that I wonder if she did some kind of like crazy channeling or something at some point,
Yeah,
like clear their way through the blight. Because it just looks like it
I
would take forever to get through it. And it seems like time is of the essence. So
yeah. Yeah, she looks so haggard, especially even in episode 7. She looks like about done. She's ready to go to sleep. Thank you for joining us for our second episode of the Great Honey Podcast. Find us on Instagram and Twitter as @GreatHoneyPod, @TheGreatHoney on TikTok, and The Great Honey anywhere you find podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We'll be releasing new episodes every Wednesday. Until then, see you around.